Hi, thank you all for attending. My name's John Canali. I'm an analyst with Omdia, focusing on service provider and enterprise strategies within IoT. I've been in the industry for a bit over 20 years, starting back when connected car really just consisted of OnStar and folks struggling to pair their Bluetooth to the car. So really excited to be here. Today's panel is Unlocking the Value with IoT and AI, Navigating Your Path to Smarter Business. I've got a very distinguished panel here with me today. I will go ahead and let the folks introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Katie DeGraaf. Pleasure to be here. I lead product and telematics for OnStar Insurance at General Motors. And what that means is that we focus on leveraging this world's largest connected fleet to provide really modern insurance experiences. So think, I can get you a personalized price, personalized coverage, personalized experience in terms of understanding what is your risk and your ability to control your insurance price. And then finally, should an accident occur, really making it very easy for the customer to be made whole as quickly as possible.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Rohatgi, and I'm the Vice President and Global Head of Design at BP. And I have the unique privilege of being the first design leader in BP's 100-year history as it relates to digital and user experience. And it's very exciting what we're building and what we're getting to do. BP is going through what I call a digital awakening, or what you may call a digital transformation. But the purpose of that digital transformation isn't just to transform from a digital perspective, but is also to help us harness what we call human experience design to reimagine energy for people and planet. So I've been able to build out a discipline of design and user experience and all sorts of disciplines within design for the first time in BP, and we've been growing quite a bit. And we're overseeing over 200,000 interfaces and at least 11,000 apps where we are trying to elevate and increase a better customer, internal and external customer experience with everything that we do throughout the globe and throughout our company.
And hi, I'm Ron Baker with IBM. I have the honor of leading our technical strategy for our sustainability software organization, which is an organization that has several different parts in its portfolio that are kind of an interesting mix. We have asset management and reliability of those. We do building facilities management. We do supply chain optimization and order management systems. We have the weather company data that we do a lot of aviation. We have an environmental intelligence suite now, and we also now have ESG reporting through our Envisi product as well. So interesting mix of things that we put together and integrate for sustainable capabilities in software support.
Great. Well, again, thank you for joining us. In terms of IoT, it's really been around for many decades, and this goes beyond machine to machine. Looking back, Katie, at the history of OnStar, starting back when networks were still analog, you were still, working with machines that were actually moving.
Yeah.
From the enterprises I've spoken to, in terms of what they're looking for now and what they've been looking for recently, and what they're seeing with IoT, is really things like cost savings, productivity gains, increased worker safety, not necessarily new lines of revenue, but I'm curious for all three of you, what are you looking for now, and what are you looking for in the future, and what have you seen in the past with the IoT deployments you've been working on or with?
I can start us off. So you're right, OnStar, GM has been connecting vehicles through OnStar since before you could even Google. If you remember a world, the dark ages, before we could Google, GM was connecting vehicles via OnStar. I personally had nothing to do with that, but I am thrilled to be in the seat now to be able to leverage this history and investment in connectivity. And to your point about, can these companies who've made this investment, can they turn those into revenue streams? That is actually exactly why OnStar Insurance exists within General Motors, right? They've made this investment, they understand the vehicles, they understand how they're being operated, and they know they can use that data, they can use that connection to the customer to both extend their services and relationship to the customer, but also leverage that data to generate revenue through insurance offerings. So we can use this connection to customer to create an insurance business model that is just unmatched in the insurance industry. So an example of that is that the traditional insurers today, they spend about $10 billion a year in advertising. Probably won't surprise you, because as soon as you hear about auto insurance, something pops in your head, right? The emu or the gecko, right? Something. You think of your favorite insurance ad. Well, we actually sit within the connection to the customer where we don't need to do that. We know within the customer's GM experience when they might need insurance. So that's automatically some savings we can return back to both the customer as well as the opportunity for GM. And then leveraging this connected data to understand real, true risk on the road, we can better price customers, we can make customers safer, we can keep them longer. All of this is that opportunity to extend that relationship and generate revenue back to GM.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, Katie, and very exciting, because I feel like a lot of that resounds with what we're doing in our company and where we've kind of been headed and for years, trying to harness all this data to figure out how we can really leverage it, not just for optimization, but for intelligently finding ways to increase the experience for our customers and users. And, it's interesting because I think it's the United Nations that said that they had predicted that in 2020 there'd be over 200 billion IoT connected devices in the world, and whether they're small or large, most small could, they've termed it smart dust, and that smart dust is sprinkled all over the world, and it's through small devices on our wrists, to our phones, to connected fridges, to even small devices inside of humans nowadays. And that connected information, that's that web of connected information is quite interesting, and we see that how we could leverage that same information through sensors and data that's positioned throughout all of our assets and things that we're doing in the world through B2B, B2C, B2B2C, B2E, which is the business to enterprise and employees, and even to what I call B2N, which is business to nations, helping whole entire governments become sustainable or smart cities and so forth. And being able to leverage that, we can find that there's industrial automation and there's even energy conservation. And where it gets very interesting is really where the future lies with it, where you could look at, just recently I'm, driving over and stopping at the famous Beaver, fuel station, to get my car EV charged. They have a big Tesla supercharging area, and if you can imagine, you pull in, and automatically when you start charging, a brisket sandwich is, because we're in Texas, a brisket sandwich gets automatically ordered for you, and that then I walk in and I pick up that sandwich and I pick up a couple of other items that were automatically pre-ordered for me based upon the intelligence that it knew, and then right after that it lets the inventory system know that it needs to be restocked, and it triggers off procurement process and all sorts of other things. And so all of this is beginning to move toward this massive boon of how that information not only is gathered and collected, but how we can create personalized experiences for users and customers and see that difference and impact in new revenue streams and new business streams, but not just for the sake of business revenue and profit, but for the sake of really enabling a better experience for people and humans, and obviously through that, better charging experience for our customers, as well as helping the planet.
So I'll connect into the insurance and the personal experience with something we did. A lot of people don't know that we acquired the weather company about 5-6 years ago. We had wanted a cloud company, and somebody got confused, and I know there's a little joke there. But the interesting thing, not everybody thinks of the weather company being an IoT AI system, but it is. There are obviously sensors and connectors globally that bring us all kinds of data in very large volumes, and then we run literally hundreds of models, AI models and different simulations to do the weather prediction, and then we do risk calculations for different locations, so if you're affected by the weather. So one of the offerings that we came up with was the ability to alert policyholders for insurers about when certain weather events were going to occur. And I have a story here. I live here in Austin. My son lives here in Austin. It started to hail, and I called him right away and said, "Hey, I've got a garage, to get your car underneath something, it's coming." Well, that alerting we thought would be a great way of avoiding claims, saving money for the insurers, and even actually detecting fraud, because we knew exactly where the hail had occurred, and we could flag maybe claims that were outside of those areas for, double checking. It turns out, though, that the insurers were more interested in the touch points and the opportunity to interact. Right? Hey, we know you had hail in your area. Would you like us to inspect your roof? We have a new location set up near Home Depot for you to come bring your car and get a quick check. So it was the ability to reach those customers from all that IoT data and analytics that we had that they hoped would sustain and drive revenue, not just cost savings. So it was an interesting experience to see. It wasn't exactly what we thought, but that data and that prediction and that data, the results really made a difference for us.
Yeah, I think the theme is customers certainly want this personalization, right? I've shared my information. Things are very easy for me within how I operate within my ecosystems today, and they expect that personalization. But the other piece that you're picking up here on, Ron, is this preventative nature, and that's where we have the opportunity to go, right? Today, insurance is very reactive. It's unknown. The customer has to report that something happened. The customer has to share information. And when we know that, we know what you need, we know where you are, it can be extraordinarily both personalized and preventative. For us, GM's mission is 0, 0, 0, zero congestion, zero emission, and zero crashes. For OnStar Insurance, that means we have to make it really easy for customers to afford insurance when they purchase their EV and hop on the evolution to EVs. It also means that we have to provide experiences and incentives to eliminate crashes, which is just really exciting to be part of, right? I've spent my career in data, specifically in telematics, and it's not often that we've had an opportunity to personally impact people and their savings and keeping them actually safe and preventing crashes. So it's a thrilling time.
Yeah, no, and I love what you're saying there, and I think we talked about this too, Ron, as well. Is that one of the most important things that IoT and AI can help us do is keep people safe.
Yeah.
And especially in our line of work, we take that very seriously, and we've been working on building an app and an infrastructure to be able to do that, and not only to be able to report live on those incidents, but to be able to gather enough intelligence to be able to help keep us safe in the future. And I think there's something about that, where it's not just even our external customers, but it's all of our internal people too. The way we look at human experience design in BP, it comprises of UX plus CX plus EX, which is that employee or internal experience or enterprise experience. And so our people and our stakeholders internally are just as important as our external customers, and even in many ways the ones that are on the ground. And so whether we're looking at how IoT is going to affect the efficiency of our wind farms or the future of how we deliver EV and energy or different types of energy into the home, we believe that even more so, how do we keep our people safe? And I think there's so many different aspects of that, even to some of the robotics and things that we're looking at, and it's actually quite exciting.
Yeah.
So why don't we pause here? Ron, I appreciate your ability to connect the dots and kind of serve as a consultant, if you will, between the folks on stage. Katie and Roger, can you speak to some of the pain points you're experiencing regarding introducing AI, managing AI into your IoT solutions? And then I want to hear, Ron, your take on it, coming from a bit more of a consulting background as to how you would help walk the folks through their problems. Sound good?
Okay. Sounds good.
Oh, sure. So for us, I think one of our unique hurdles with the use of AI is the regulatory construct in personal insurance. So personal insurance, property and casualty insurance, that's your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, these things that you own. And it's regulated on a state-by-state basis. And so anytime we want to introduce anything in how we charge, how we determine risk, and how we price customers, every single state regulator reviews the model and has to approve it before it can be used in market. And then that model is locked. It stays that way until you bring another filing to the regulator and they review and approve it again. So we're constrained in how much we can really unlock AI in that one piece of the insurance experience, because regulation is really set up for these more like fixed model, fixed deployment methods. We do still have the ability to use it in other pieces of the insurance, but in that piece, which is the primary driver for insurance business models, there's a hurdle there.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this as well, is that, I think one of the things that's going on in the industry today is that a lot of it's very, tech-centric. It's a very solution-based centric, and everybody's looking at, great, now we've gathered this data and so forth, and we talked a little bit about this today, but I think what suffers in a lot of companies, as well as companies like ours that are learning this, is how do we really elevate the experience that people will have, and why we actually are collecting that data, or why we are using sensors and IoT and AI, and so what's the purpose of that? What's the why to that? What is the reason and the rationale? And as we grow in this, what we're going to find is that becoming more and more human-centric and putting them at the center of everything instead of tech-centric, we will see a better introduction of the way AI begins to deliver action. So as you get data science, right, and gathering all those insights, and then you look at machine learning that makes these predictions, it's AI that will make those actions. But that machine learning and that AI that may not be in the cloud but actually living in the edge now is going to begin to be learning at rapid stages if we can help them understand, or that if we can help that understand how to learn the way humans behave, then we can provide that better experience. It's something that I think we were talking about that I'm going to be speaking on at MIT next week around, and we're working with them around the future of how we humanize that area in robotics as well. And I think one of the hardest things, one of the biggest challenges, is really understanding how we apply that and then actually make it relevant to people's lives. All this could be great, all this technology is great, but when is it really relevant and meaningful to me as a person, as a consumer, as a human?
Yeah, I like the two examples, because they match the inhibitors that we've typically seen across industries as well as the technologies. So one inhibitor is access to the data and the quality of the data, right? The quantity is obviously growing enormously quick. I think everybody in the room understands that. But getting data, for example, in IoT, getting it from SCADA systems and things where it's being used on the manufacturing floor and actually get it up, where we can start to look at it, that's gone slower than we thought, right? So there's an inhibitor in kind of crossing the OT to the IT worlds in some cases. In other cases, there's this massive volume, but then, to your point, great, I can experiment with it. I can, there's advantage to that, going out and just seeing what's out there, right, in that quantity, and you might discover things. But if you have very specific problems that you're trying to address, do you have the right data for that, and is the quality good? So really a whole set of tools that we in the industry are developing around getting that data and getting it cleansed, getting it prepared, getting it curated, consistent, or developing the algorithms that can handle some of the messiness, right? Yeah. That's where we're seeing a lot of progress in those areas, right? To try and make it sense of that enormous volume that's there. Then the second inhibitor that we see that we're really working hard to overcome, and I say we, but the industry is doing this as well, right, is the application of the different AI models to be more precise and more scoped. So, machine learning has been an amazing set of mathematic advancements over the last 5 years, and we're seeing a lot of interesting patterns. But just because we can repeat a pattern doesn't mean we should repeat the pattern. Yeah. And so we start getting into some transparency and ethics and explainability issues, and that's something that I know we're very focused on in IBM is why is this relevant? Is it ethical? Is it transparent so people understand? And we've actually avoided certain kinds of AI models because we don't believe, we believe they're biased or they have issues. So it's still a difficult proposition to take, even, let's say, manufacturing valves, pumps, things like that, and find anomaly detection or prediction because of the variability in the different types. So your models have to adjust for the kind of application you're doing, and you've got to be able to match that up. And so it's still a fair amount of work in some cases, but we're getting much better at not only discovering, okay, what's the scenario, right? So we can identify the scenario, and then we say, okay, based on that, we apply these techniques versus those techniques, and automating that so that it doesn't take a data scientist, to do all the application on every single case. So those are the inhibitors that I see, but we're seeing progress in each of those areas with the new tools and things that are coming out.
Well, in terms of the progress, are most of the deployments of IoT and AI still largely in trial phase, or are you looking to go to wider deployments? Can you talk about the journey of marrying the two technologies together and where you feel you stand and where you hope to be maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years as well?
Yeah, I can start us off. So I've personally been working on the use of IoT telematics to understand what's happening on the road and the risks associated with those for about 15 years. So we started with aftermarket hardwares, right? Devices you plug into your OBD2 port or have to be professionally installed onto the vehicle. And a lot of that came from the fleet side of the fleet industry, I should say. And that gave us really rich information about how the vehicle was moving. But it was very cost prohibitive. To give you some idea, that little OBD2 device that you've probably seen Flo holding, that device takes an insurance company about 5 to 7 years in profit to make up the cost to send, manage the device, as well as transmit, store, and use the data. So that's not really scalable. Great information, gave us great models, great predictive models, but wasn't really scalable. So then we made the shift to mobile, software development kits within mobile, tons of sensors on there, not quite as high quality, not fixed like the devices were. What was interesting about mobile is that we made this transition. We sacrificed some of that data quality and accuracy, few new sensors, but it gave us a much better communication platform to the customer, right? It was relevant. They were used to communicating to you through this phone. So that was an interesting trade-off that we made, but we do love our very accurate machine learning models in insurance. So where we're at today is this use of connected car is essentially the marriage of the two of them. High-quality fixed sensors that really explain to us what's happening on the road, what is that true risk on the road, and the meaningful communication platform in-screen, right? In-screen, in-vehicle, so it allows us to marry the two. And then where I think it's going, or where I hope it's going, is we've really been constrained to, I would say, discrete events, right? So understanding of like, did you have a hard break? So really discrete events and correlation models. So we've been looking at, is a hard break correlated with getting in an accident? Of course it is, because for most drivers, when they get into an accident, they slam on the brakes, right? But I should say, distracted drivers don't necessarily slam on the brakes, which is very alarming, and I hope you take that away and don't drive distracted. Little plug for that. So where I hope it's going is more of causation models. So our ability to understand, hey, it's not that the person had a hard break. That's not the true risk on the road. The true risk on the road is this person was weaving in and out of traffic, in congestion, eating McDonald's while the road was wet. That's the real problem. So now we can talk to the customer about, hey, this is the behavior we need to mitigate in order for you to control your insurance prices.
Yeah, no, and thanks for the plug on the distracted driving. I think we can all use that. That's important. So I think our company, obviously, and what it's been doing across the globe for over 100+ years is constantly working to receive feedback on anything and everything that we're doing in the field or everywhere we work and all over our assets and in all of our entities. And IoT has just enabled that to get those, have sensors in the right places and so forth. So it's just kind of a common place, I think, for our company. I think where it's evolving and where we're all evolving is more like in the sense where we're evolving with what's happening in our world today with technology. So for instance, if you look at some of the investments we've made into IoT technology around EV charging, like I was mentioning, and we can potentially connect or use that to connect our EV chargers to the grid and then be able to get all sorts of kind of insights and information and data and also automate payments and then find ways to bring cost savings and energy savings to customers as well, potentially. So there's something real fundamental there. But I think where, if you look at, or if I look at kind of where we're doing and even like our crawlers or robotics and stuff, we have robots going up walls and through pipes and underwater and fleets of drones and autonomous vehicles and all of them are equipped or with some kind of sensors for a purpose, whether it's safety or whether it's to give us more data or information or to help us be more efficient or even in the future from a consumer standpoint, help with new revenue streams. But I think again, that's a kind of a common avenue. I think where we may want to look, just as all of our companies, is a concept that's being discussed around machine customers. And machine customers are kind of what people are predicting as the future of how transactions will be made. Customers and businesses and companies will set and leave their ordering, their procurement process, and all sorts of kind of other things to machines to make the purchases and make the connections and stuff. And all that data coming back is something that they are going to have to look through to make. And as those machines gather that data, they'll make those purchases. Whether a human would have purchased more, they may purchase less, or whether we would have purchased less, they would purchase more, and so forth. And so there's a whole new customer that's arising, which is that machine customer. And if we look to the future of how IoT and AI will enable that, I think we need to prepare now.
And I know we're running close on time here. So I think we've gotten smarter and customers have gotten smarter. 8 years ago, a lot of our projects were POCs and experimental, and they had these grand rollout plans. We'll start with this group, and once we get that working, we'll expand that up to millions and millions of devices. And all of those ended up either taking longer than we thought they would take, didn't go as far as we thought they would take, or they changed their mind and did something else in a lot of cases too. We've gotten a lot better at identifying which business cases make more sense, and they are more realistic about what can be accomplished as well. And so the scopes have changed and the focuses have changed, and that's really made more recent ones, the last several years, be more successful in what we've seen. And there's a big difference in if you're going to monitor, let's say, 1 million elevators versus you're going to monitor 10 extremely large, capital-intensive assets, mining trucks or major facilities like that. And so the way you price those and the way you plan on the budgets and things like that changes in those. So we're just getting better at identifying those as well as the technology moving forward. So that's helping.
Great. And we're starting to run up on time, but I think we've got a few more minutes before we go to break. So again, if you can give us within a minute or so your last thoughts, maybe on what you plan on seeing in the future or hope to see in the future, or maybe even what you hope to get out of this show. And Ron, I'll start with you.
Real quickly, for me, the AI models themselves, we're seeing just an extremely fast acceleration of the capabilities there, and we're seeing them require less data, right? So when you've got a lot of data, you can see patterns, but when you have less data and you have to identify, situations, getting smarter at being able to predict some of those kinds of things. And also, it's much more than the old linear regression at this point, right? It is the ability to really focus in on different kind of asset classes and generate the models automatically and make decisions around that. As I mentioned, the weather, we do that, and that we have a lot of environmental analytics. We do a lot of geospatial analytics now. And so it's really fun to see how those are advancing and specializing And the farther we go, the easier those are going to be to I think, deploy.
And Roger, quickly.
Yeah, sure. So really quickly, I guess, for a conference like this and what we're all trying to learn and discuss and predict for the future, along with what other algorithms are trying to predict for us, I think there's an interesting thing going on right now where a lot of companies, especially the largest ones, are running tons of simulations to make their businesses more efficient, make their their profits better, and help their people and so forth. And all these simulations are learning at a fast rate, and they are actually out front and becoming out front leading people. So these machines and these simulations are beginning to make decisions for us. You'll see that in the warehouses and some of the big companies that do e-commerce and things like that. They're being led by the simulations, and I think that's important to know that because there's something that obviously I've been talking about here that I feel very passionate about, especially why I think it's really important to bring it up at conferences like this and where we go, is that there's still a lot of us as humans that need to be in the equation. And these machines and simulation can't necessarily do that without us. Although there may be a time when there are many things that they do without us because we've programmed that or because it's begun to learn on its own. But I think if we take the time now to help them have what I call, or what's has been teamed as the artificial empathy for us, and then we understand a bit of empathy for what they need, then there is a coexistence of working together because as we look at all of this, the easiest thing that may happen in the future of IoT and AI is the dehumanization of decisions and the creativity and the lack of compassion that we need to have in a situation. And so we need to be really mindful of that. And I think that's something that I feel very honored to be able to say here on this stage and be a part of this event as well and to be with all of you.
And I'm going to put Katie on the clock now.
I guess I'll just yes and both of you. So to the first, this sort of like sensor source fusion to really understand how these complex models can put the whole story together from all these different sources. That's one. And then the second would be, how do we actually turn that into value props for the customer? How are we helping them, enabling them, and solving their problems rather than just our own?
Well, again, I'd like to thank the panelists first and foremost. I'd like to thank the audience as well. I'll be at the show today and tomorrow. Please feel free to reach out to me. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I imagine the panelists would be happy if you reached out to them as well. So thank you all for your time, and have a good rest of the show.
Be around all day.
Thank you.